Hey, good evening. We're going to have several other folks join us, but I wanted us to go ahead and get started this evening. Just a couple of things to let you know about. The first is that next Wednesday, we are going to have Janae Morgan and some folks from Isaiah 117 who are going to join us and tell us about the work that they're doing. We want to take some time to have some of our community partners come and share with what's going on in our community and what the way that they are working. One of the great things about Crestview is that we have been able to partner so well with so many folks in our community, and it's just great to take some time and listen to what's happening and what's going on with that. Also tell you that after we get done, we're going to have some desserts served out of the kitchen right back there. So make sure you stick around for that, and that's been something that I have just really enjoyed, just the time of visiting, talking, and all the things going on there. Our speaker tonight, we're so grateful that John Calloway from Mission Waco has joined us, and while he is just someone that I have always been so impressed with his desire to serve. Every time that I hear John speak, I just want to do more, and I'm so thankful for just the work that Mission Waco and Mission World has done in this community across the globe. It's just so impressive. So thank you for joining us. Know that John is super busy. He's got a million irons in the fire, but. So I appreciate you taking time away from your family and other works to be with us this evening. And so we're going to give John plenty of time to speak and to present what's going on with the Creekside work that's happened in Creekside community. Really exciting things. If you don't know about Creekside, you're going to walk out of here you're going to be excited. You're going to be really excited about what's happening. And so John's going to come up, but before then, Gavin and our worship team's going to come and lead some songs for us. So let's all stand up, let's sing together, and then we'll hear from John. Oh, by the way, what do you think, guys? And Lance? Yeah, we're the Grimace Gang. That's what we are. Okay.
All right, let's sing together. Come, let us sing for joy to the Lord, let us shout aloud. To the rock of our salvation, let us come before him with thanksgiving and extol him with music and song. For the Lord is a great God, a great King above all gods, and his hands are the depths of the earth, and the mountain peaks belong to him. The sea is his, he made it, and his hands form the dry land. Come, let us sing for joy to the Lord, let us shout aloud. To the rock of our salvation, let us come before him with thanksgiving and extol him with music and song. For the Lord is a great God, a great King above all gods, and his hands are the depths of the earth, and the mountain peaks belong to him. The sea is his, he made it. His hands, they form the dry land. His hands, they form the dry land. I will enter his gates with thanksgiving in my heart. I will enter his courts with praise. I will say this is the day that the Lord has made. I will rejoice, for he has made me glad. He has made me glad. He has made me glad. I will rejoice, for he has made me glad. He has made me glad. He has made me glad. I will rejoice, for he has made me glad. I will enter his gates with thanksgiving in my heart. I will enter his courts with praise. I will say this is the day that the Lord has made. I will rejoice, for he has made me glad. He has made me glad. He has made me glad. I will rejoice, for he has made me glad. He has made me glad. He has made me glad. I will rejoice, for he has made me glad. Sing it again. He has made me glad. He has made me glad. I will rejoice, for he has made me glad. He has made me glad. He has made me glad. I will rejoice, for he has made me glad. Anywhere with with Jesus I can safely go. Anywhere he leads me in this world below. Anywhere without him, dearest joys would fade. Anywhere with Jesus I am not afraid. Anywhere, fear I cannot know. Anywhere with Jesus I can safely go. Anywhere with Jesus I am not alone. Other friends may fail me, he is still my own. Though his hand may lead me over drearest ways, anywhere with Jesus is a house of praise. Anywhere, fear I cannot know. Anywhere with Jesus I can safely go. Let's sing of God's goodness. God is so good. God is so good. God is so good. He's so good to me. Let's sing one more time. God cares for me. He cares for me. He cares for me. He's so good to me. God is so good. God is so good. God is so good. He's so good to me. Amen. Please be seated.
Evening. Check, check. There we go. How are we doing this evening, y'all? So good to hear harmonies. I'm Baptist. We don't have a lot of harmonies in our church. We got it covered up with loud music and speakers. I'm delighted to be here. Thank you, Jordan. Thank you, staff, for being here. I look out and see a whole lot of familiar faces. And one of my bosses, Dr. Dwayne Simmons. Everybody say, yay, doctor, for being here. Give John a raise. Just kidding. They pay me very nicely. But I'm glad you're here. Glad I get to share a little bit about Creekside and what God has done, is doing, and what we hope to see him do here in our own community. So I've been here, went to school at Truett Seminary. I got married. I've been married 16 years. I've got an 11 and a 8-year-old, Cohen and Cora. I've got a new middle schooler. He's in 6th grade at Tennyson Middle School. So if I've got any middle school parents, please speak your wisdom into my life afterwards. If we don't get a chance to talk, just pray for me and my wife, please. I got a 8-year-old who's in 3rd grade at Hillcrest, so we're big Waco ISD parents. Love Waco ISD. Public schools are in there, in the neighborhood, in North Waco. That's a little bit about us. We got married, moved to Waco. My wife's a pediatric physical therapist, so her favorite night of the year is actually in your community center at Night to Shine. She's in charge of getting the kids out of the limos, or in the limos and out of the limos, I think a little bit of both. And so I'm just so grateful for your church. You have a legacy in this city that long probably precedes some of you and will outlast maybe some of you. But I think that speaks volumes of not just the leadership of the church, but the heart of this church. One of the first events that I was a part of at Mission Waco, actually before I was on staff, was a toy run coming through here, through the Porte Cochet, having the largest crowd still to this day after the 8 years that I've been here, attending and bringing bikes out and all the toys. Thank you for what you do for our community. Also, thank you for your investment in Creekside. I expect a lot of relationships to be built throughout the years to come. But I moved here and got married. I went to seminary at Truett. My wife was a pediatric physical therapy, still is. She was my sugar mama. She paid for me to go through seminary along with some scholarship. After I graduated, we moved to Austin. I was a missions pastor there. And every once in a while, I'd come back to Truett or undergrad in the religion department and teach for Jimmy or Janet Dorrell, who were the co-founders of Mission Waco. And Jimmy, if you don't know Jimmy Dorrell, he's pretty cheap. And he was too cheap to pay for my mileage to come up from Austin. So he'd buy me breakfast or lunch at World Cup Cafe. And after about 7, 8 years in Austin, I came up here to teach at Truett for one of his classes. And we sat down at World Cup Cafe for lunch afterwards, and he said, "John, what do you think about moving back to Waco and taking over for Mission Waco for me?" I said, "No, I'm good. I put Waco in my rearview mirror and moved to the promised land of Austin, Texas." And he said, "Well, why don't you at least pray about it?" I said, "Jimmy, I really don't want to pray about it." Well, I get home, and my wife, if you ever met my wife, she got her undergrad and her doctorate in 5.5 years. So she's not only brilliant, but she has a plan for everything. 1 year, 3 year, 5-year plans. Waco was not in the 1, 3, or 5-year plan after we moved to Austin. So I get home, and I say, she looks at me and says, "John, how was your day? How's your time with Jimmy?" I said, "Well, Sarah, he asked me an interesting question." And she went, "We're moving to Waco, aren't we?" And I said, "No, we're not moving to Waco." 7 months later, me, kids, a 3-month-old and a 3-year-old, we were moving to Waco, Texas, back to work for Mission Waco. Back then, when you go back a little bit further than that, when I came here back in 2017, about 24 years ago, in around 2002, 2 young men who were attending Church Under the Bridge. It was a cold February night, middle of the month, had nowhere to go. They found an abandoned house downtown, found a way to get into the side of the house in the evening, lit some candles. One of the candles in the middle of the night tipped over and burned the house down with them in it. Jimmy Dorrell, Church on the Bridge had begun. It was its own church, nonprofit. Mission Waco, our board, and the leadership at Church on the Bridge got together and said, "How do we go back and worship on Sunday with this happening and not do anything about it?" And that's what led to what is now My Brother's Keeper, which is over 23 years old. My Brother's Keeper is an emergency shelter for men and women who are experiencing homelessness. It's a 56-bed emergency shelter. It's sort of a hybrid ministry combined with our Meyer Center, which is at 1226 Washington Avenue, where we do a lot of legal services, case management. We're open to the public in the afternoons for people to come and cool off or find a warm place to stay. Over the years, since 2005, I don't know if you've ever heard of what's called the point-in-time count. The point-in-time count is something that the federal government requires cities like Waco to do. What it means is that we fly around as a homeless coalition. It's kind of hard to believe, but we actually do this. In late January, the Homeless Coalition flies around in a helicopter and identifies all the camps that are in and surrounding Waco. And one particular weekend, between 2 weekends, we count all of the folks who are sheltered. So folks are at Family Abuse Center, Compassion, Salvation Army, Mission Waco's My Brother's Keeper. And then we go and do interviews with these camps, and we count the chronic homeless population. And it's through a government app, and they calculate it, and it's tallied. It's a whole thing. Back in 2005, we had about 650 chronically homeless. Back in 2022, we had around 200. Most people don't know that. I guarantee you a new incoming Baylor parent, I run into them all the time, and I ask them what's their concern. They always say something about homelessness because they saw somebody at Ninfa's when they're going in to get their enchiladas, and somebody asked them for money, and now there's this big homeless problem to them. When the reality is that we have a challenge that can actually be mitigated. Now, something unique happened that I think all of us, if you've tried to buy a home in the last 10 years, you fully understand the weight of what it means for our community to struggle with affordable housing. It's just a challenge. Folks that are coming through our shelter have to be able to make 3 times the amount of what's required to pay the rent, which on average you're looking at least $1,000 a month for a small 1-bedroom here in town. But then on top of that, you've got to have enough money for some sort of security deposit or first and last month's rent. And so you're talking about $2,000 to $3,000 extra on top of that. And over the years just became significantly more challenging. And then in 2023, we saw a 25% rise in homelessness. 2021, I just remember the date because Baylor men won the national championship for basketball. About 3 or 4 donors, myself and Jimmy Dorrell, began to look around McLennan County to brainstorm and dream about what it would mean to have affordable housing for folks who were exiting homelessness. And then we began to look larger. We looked at different models across the country. And the more we looked, the more we learned, looking at other models, what we didn't want to do. We found a model in Austin, and then we began a long process with our board of directors to say, we need permanent and supportive housing, but what does that look like? And where could it exist in Waco? And is Mission Waco even the organization to pull this off? And so God set us on a trajectory that eventually led to us purchasing some property in 2023, which is now called Creekside Community Village. When we talk about housing and homelessness, I guarantee you, most of you in this room, when you think about what that looks like, nothing good comes to mind. At best, you think tent city. Maybe at worst, you think tent city. At best, you think rundown trailer park. But I want everybody's thought when they first drive onto Creekside Community Village to be, I would live here. Take a look. I want to show a video to give you a visual to kind of show you where God has brought us and kind of currently where we are, and then I'll finish talking about it a little bit more.
Knock, knock. Anybody home? It's Dusty. Augustine, is this you? It's really off the grid. Nobody knows this is back here. They can get down there and get to water, or it's cooler. They can bathe, wash clothes. Knock, knock. John, are you home? John, it's Dusty. We have a large number of people that are just sleeping outside. Our folks don't have anywhere to go that need a house. There's not enough housing. The homeless population that we service, almost 100%, they just came out of broken families, bad families, just a lot of trauma in their life that has led them to where they are today. All of these people they're just like you and me and anybody else. There just wasn't anybody there to pick them up when they were at a bad spot in their life.
We really think that one of the single leading causes of homelessness is the profound, catastrophic loss of family. Oftentimes people think that it's drugs and alcohol, but those are really just the medication. We were fundamentally designed for human-to-human interaction, to live in community, to support one another. When you become isolated, you remove those elements out of your life.
So the homeless situation in Waco is pretty unique to a city of our size. Right now, we've got about 250 homeless in Waco from our most recent study in 2023. That's up about 25% from where we were in 2022, which tells us that it is a growing number, faster than we would like for it to be.
Today, what we're seeing with our homeless friends and trying to get them off the street is there's just no housing. There's no place for them. The demand for housing is too great.
It all started a few years ago when McLennan County and Waco started to see a number of these low-income, low-budget motels start to close down. Homelessness in our community has been a struggle for decades. Between these motels that were closing down and a number of other issues that are affecting homelessness in our community, we decided we can't sit idly by and not do anything about this. As we began to survey models from across the country, we really landed on what we think the most successful model was in this ecosystem of permanent and supportive housing, and that was Community First in Austin, Texas. Community First Village is a master planned neighborhood that provides affordable, permanent housing and supportive community for men and women who are coming out of chronic homelessness. Through design, layout, common areas, community kitchens and gardens, the village is intentionally designed to encourage community. Every step along the way, God continued to affirm both the model in Austin and the steps of progress that we were making here. Creekside Community Village will be a 68-acre master plan community that combines permanent supportive housing with life-giving community engagement. When we're fully built out, we'll have 346 homes on our property, which will have access to the Welcome Home Center, we'll have access to community kitchens, also have access to what we're calling living rooms, places where you can come and watch the Super Bowl and hang out and play pool, play ping pong, work on your resume, take a job training class. Having the ability to create spaces where community is encouraged is vitally important to the success of not just the community overall, but all of the individuals that will be living here. This is called a park model home. There's probably going to be about 50 of these throughout the property. You've got a nice, comfortable place to sit. These are really highly energy efficient, and you've got a full kitchen and a full bath. One of the aspects, one of the ways that we would like to create community is through a term that we call missionals. We are inviting people who aren't formerly homeless to live out in this community. This mixture of those who are not formerly homeless but choose to live with those who are creates an ecosystem of support that will not just allow people to be lifted up off the streets, but it empowers them to stay off the streets permanently.
It's all about community. It's not about housing. The homes all have front porches. The homes all face 5 or 6 other homes that have front porches. So you cannot live there without being part of a community.
This is going to offer them, maybe for the first time in their life, a sense of a wonderful community and a sense of having a true family that will look after them and be able to enjoy life with them.
When all of your time is spent trying to figure out where your next meal is going to come from, where you're going to sleep that night, that just takes up a lot of mental and spiritual energy. When those base needs are met, it frees people up to live the life that God is actually equipping them to live. If there is anything that we ought to be most willing for our resources to go towards, it ought to be our care for our needy neighbors.
Community like Creekside that first approaches individuals with dignity and seeks to provide them not only with permanent housing, but with solutions to the problems that led to their instance of homelessness, but helping them with mental health services, helping them find training and job opportunities, I think is a much better and holistic approach to helping to solve our homelessness issue in the city of Waco.
Good morning and welcome to this momentous occasion. I'm so honored to kick off the groundbreaking for Creekside Community Village. Today represents the culmination of years of praying, of planning, of plotting. Through it all, there was an unwavering and deep focus on our mission to provide the people of Waco this permanent, supportive housing with life-giving community engagement.
The fabric of getting people healthy is community and village, and we are part of that village.
In less than a year, we will have 40 previously unhoused individuals, residents at Creekside.
If one of the leading causes of homelessness is the profound, catastrophic loss of family, housing alone will never solve homelessness for an individual, but community will. I think many of us, probably most of us in this room, know someone in our immediate family, or possibly our extended family, that have struggled with mental or behavioral health issues, with perhaps drugs or alcohol addiction. We, however, come up alongside and up underneath those individuals to ensure that they remain up off the streets and out from underneath the respective overpasses in our city, which is why housing alone will never solve homelessness for an individual, but community will. When we began to look and survey, as I said in the video, about all these different models that were across the country, we landed on Community First, this example in Austin. And It's a profound environment if you ever have the opportunity. If you're in Austin, just stop by. If you want a tour, you can sign up for free for the public. Your first thought, again, when you drive onto this property is, I would live here. That bathroom's nicer than my bathroom. That kitchen's nicer than my kitchen. And that home there's a front porch on every one of those homes. Why is there a front porch on every one of those homes? Again, housing alone, it will not mitigate the problem and the challenge of homelessness in our community. It's community. And you, as Jimmy said, are a part of that community. Now, if you've been in Waco, some of these statistics behind me are not unique. They've existed for a long time. We have twice the poverty rate as the average city in Texas. Let that sink in. In the shade of the silos, in the shadow of McLean Stadium, we have a 26% poverty rate. When you look at housing, 40% of our population struggle with excessive housing costs, which means you make less than 3 times what your mortgage or your rent payment is. We talked about the increase in homelessness in 2023 that we saw. There were some publications that came out from the National Alliance to End Homelessness that talked about the average cost to a Texas county for every person per year that was chronically homeless. And that was $39,000 a year. Imagine, you're homeless, and you've got nowhere to go. You don't have a community around you to give you any feedback, and you've got a headache. And you go to Providence ER, and they give you 3 Advil 6 hours later. Imagine how much that bill is. I think the average bill is around $1,600 a visit for a couple aspirin or a couple Advil. When our homeless population treats the ER as their primary care physician, guess who ends up paying the bill? We do. The hospital eats the cost, but where those costs and insurance costs get passed down to the people who are paying that. Think about the amount of mental health services that need to be provided, the amount of sheriff department calls, police department calls when someone who's on the street, when you're living in survival mode trying to survive. That same publication argued from their research that when somebody is supportively and permanently housed, we reduce that number by half. So multiply that out, $20,000 per person times 200 or so of folks that will be able to get off the streets. We've got a challenge, but we believe we have a solution. Now, that doesn't mean that Mission Waco is the only person working in the homeless space, because you're well aware of that. We have incredible collaborations. There's a reason why from 2005 we saw a 60% decrease in our homeless population. Why? Because we worked together. It's amazing what happens when you collaborate with other service providers. I don't know if you know this, but we all share a system called HMIS, Homeless Management Information System. Prosper Waco, which is a nonprofit, hosts that database. And so any given point, if somebody comes to the Meyer Center or goes to Salvation Army or goes to Compassion or wherever it is, you can look up and see where they've been and what services they've received and for how long. And guess what? It cuts down on the folks that we stereotypically describe as what? Taking care or taking advantage of the system. I don't know if you know this, but if you're from outside of McLennan County, if you come into McLennan County, you can stay about 9 to 10 nights for free. At our own shelter, you can stay 3 nights for free. But if you're going to stay beyond that, you have to meet with our licensed clinical social workers. You also have to start paying, I know, get ready, $2 a night. It's a lot of money. If you can't pay, though, you can do a chore to stay there. You can do that for 30 days, and it increases to $5 a night for another 60 days. If you can't pay that, then you have to do a chore. That's called empowerment. The people with the problem have to be a part of the solution. Empowerment also means we don't do for others what they can actually do for themselves. We just create environments where people empower themselves, if that makes sense. And that's what Creekside's all about. It's what Mission Waco is all about. At full capacity, we'll have 346 units. About 50 of those will be for whom we call missionals. So some of you in this room, I'm looking around, I would love to talk to you about becoming a missional at a Creekside Community Village. My brother and my sister-in-law, or sister and brother-in-law, and their 4 kids have lived at the one in Austin for 9 years. They've raised 4 kids in a 400 square foot tiny home. Yes, they're just as crazy as I'm making it sound. I love them to death, but they're crazy. They just graduated 2, a senior last year and a senior this year. So yeah, they're down to 2, so they've doubled their square footage. So they're excited about life. It's living in community with others. You may have a job, you may be retired, you may be a student, but you live and choose to live in a community with others. We believe that this diverse group of people, where you have multiple income levels living in one place, creates a more healthier and sustainable neighborhood for everyone who's out there. See if we can go to the next one. There we go. Back in 2023, for years, a couple years before that, we had looked at locations all over the city. There was a location kind of in the 17th, 18th Street Bridge areas. We looked at probably 15 or 20 different properties, none of which really worked out, either access to utilities or pushback from city folks or neighborhood folks. And so we finally landed on 68 acres off of South University Parks Drive. If you're driving away from the Farrell Center, away from Waco, you've passed LaSalle, and you pass Baylor Equestrian, the golf course. There's a Little League ball field that's used a couple times a year. Then there's a creek, Primrose Creek. That's Creekside Community Village. Right there on the other side of that creek is that property. I would love to give you a tour. What we love about this property is that it's outside the city limits, but it's still in the Waco ETJ, so we're still tied into city utilities, and Encore is still providing electric, so we didn't have to do a whole bunch of wells under the ground or the different kinds of sewage that you have to do that ends up being real expensive. It also provides an essential service called the bus that we need for people to get back into town as well. Half the property we're getting out of the floodplain. The back half of the property is not out of the floodplain and can't come out of the floodplain, and so that will be mostly green space. I don't know if you've ever spent any time. Has anybody ever been to Church Under the Bridge? If you have, one of the debriefing questions that you're thinking to yourself as you drive back home is, you don't turn on the radio, you want silence because it is loud, not just from the speakers, but the 18-wheelers and the cars driving overhead. Imagine you've heard that for 20 years. Then what do you hear now? Silence. I don't have any gardeners in the room. Former farmers. Anybody grow up farming? My dad grew up farming. My great-grandfather was a sharecrop farmer in Oklahoma, moved to East Texas. So my dad grew up on the farm. He showed up to 6th grade with no shoes and no shirt. And they sent him and make my grandparents come pick him up. He was that hillbilly in East Texas. So that's where my family grew up. But there is something healing about putting your hands in the dirt and watching something grow and then harvest that. And then while you're doing that, you're doing it in community. You're doing it with neighbors. Maybe you're doing it with some crazy person from Crestview Church of Christ who decided to come over and help plant a garden. And then you stand up and you listen and you hear this. Not an AC unit. But you don't hear traffic. There's something healing about that, to be in that kind of community outside the way God intended. Closed on the property in June of 2023. We had a groundbreaking ceremony last fall, which was exciting. And since then, we have been working with architects, civil engineers, lots of different kinds of engineers and different kinds of architects to get us where we are today. We started a lot of the underground infrastructure in the spring. To date, we are done with what's called the wet utilities, so all of our public water lines are finished and complete and tested, and the city has given us the thumbs up, so we're good to go. We got fire hydrants. I never thought I'd be so excited to see green and gold fire hydrants. Maybe Bobby can answer to me why in the world they're green and gold. I guess it's Baylor somehow. But we got fire hydrants. Bowen Electric and Encore are out there this week, probably the next 3 weeks, doing all the on-site electrical. When they're finished, we'll do a final grading with our civil contractor. And by, we hope, the first 2 or 3 weeks of October, we are putting down roads and driveways and slabs for homes with the hope of moving people out onto the property either late December or early January of next year. Here's a map. You can kind of see where it is. This is a district map, so it's right outside the city limits, right inside Loop 360. It's a beautiful piece of property. The back side of that 60 acres backs up against the Brazos River. It's really long and really slender and very flat, which you would think is easy to build on, but it is not. Our civil engineers have had all kinds of trouble trying to figure out how wastewater gets out of the property. So that's been fun. You'll see a site map here. Total 346 homes. We have 3 different kinds of homes. We have studios, micro homes, and park model homes. In this site map, you'll see a main road that goes down the middle. Up front are most of our commercial buildings, our Welcome Home Center, convenience store, maintenance building. One of the things I'm really excited about is one of the first things you'll see when you drive onto the property to the left, kind of hard to see in the picture, is an amphitheater, an outdoor amphitheater. We hope to have Friday night movie nights, where you can bring the family out and you can watch Elf at Christmas time, which is my kid's favorite movie. We hope to have churches come out who want to do an Easter sunrise service out at the amphitheater. It's a great way to build community. It's also a great way to get people out at Creekside who otherwise may not have ever stepped foot on the property to get a tour and to see the vision for what God has for folks that are in our community. I want to give you an example, so I want to help you understand a little bit about what the homes will actually look like. We've used 11 different architects, all out of Austin, that designed the same homes in Austin. We used the same site map architect in Austin for this project, which just made it a lot faster. We didn't have to re-put on a piece of paper a vision, because the vision was from Austin, and we just replicated it here. Down on the left, you'll see a studio, example of a studio home. On the right is the larger park model homes. I'm going to go through just a couple examples of these. This is our native studio. Next, we've got our natural studio. Most of these are going to run anywhere between 120 square feet and about 200 square feet, which you're thinking, well, that's small. And the answer is yes. It's just one bedroom. But guess what? That's a lot less to take care of and clean. These studios are uniquely designed. This is actually my favorite, the rooftop hospitality house. I really hope I get to watch from one of my new neighbors' rooftop hospitality decks the McLean Stadium fireworks show, so I don't have to fight that traffic anymore. Next, we've got just a couple more examples. This is our Ice House Roof Studio. Again, one of the things you'll notice on every home design is that every home has a front porch, which is for community. This isn't a back porch community like you see in the suburbs. This is a front porch community. This is one of my favorites, the Butterfly House. It's just got a unique design with very separate living spaces. This is one of the bigger ones, a little under 250 square feet. One of the ways we're going to promote community are community amenities. Mother Teresa, one of my favorite lines, said that one of the most devastating forms of poverty is loneliness. When you think about homelessness, often we don't think about this, but isolation is critical for social determinants of health. It's critical, because if you're isolated and your tooth hurts and you don't have somebody to check on that, guess what? It went from a $200 fix to a $2,000 root canal fix. It's little things like that, but also depression, anxiety. God designed us to live in community. And so the first thing people want to do is recluse because of trauma, because of things that have happened in our life. One of my hopes for folks like you and the volunteers that serve with us all the time, and our staff especially, is that we want to move people when they think about homelessness. We want to move people from thinking what's wrong with this person to what's happened to this person. That changes your perspective on that person's life. Now suddenly, they're not too far different than you or I. I want to tell a story. Has nothing to do with this kitchen. You see where my brain is. It's been a long day. I don't know if anybody have heard of Mission Waco's poverty simulations. I had a group of teenage boys from a wealthy school out of Houston, private school, that came up for the POF over the weekend. I spent the whole weekend with them, and we had a scavenger hunt, not to divulge too much of what happens that weekend. We go around interviewing people, meeting people, and you collect some money, at least we did, that we got to eat off the dollar menu for lunch on Saturday. The kids were excited. And while we were eating, we were going through this survey, this scavenger hunt form they were filling out, and I was answering questions, and I got this big old great bear hug right from behind. It just grabbed me like this and kind of startled me. And I looked back, and I'm not going to name his name. I'll say his name is Carl. And I said, Carl, I haven't seen you in forever. This was a guy that I met at my first Bible study I led at my Brother's Keeper, a homeless shelter, probably a year before that. Spent a lot of time with him over 6 months, and then he just disappeared. And I didn't hear from him. My social worker said, yeah, I think he got a job. Well, now here he is, bear hugging me from behind. He had just got off a shift as a line shift supervisor at McDonald's. And I said, hey, are you getting off work? Are you going to work? And he's like, I'm getting off work. He said, would you mind sitting down and sharing a little bit about 6 freshman boys and having them answer some questions for me? He said, sure, I'd love to. So Carl said, okay, well, shoot me. What do you got? The first question one of the kids asked is, he's reading it, what is schizophrenia? And he smiled, and he said, let me tell you a story. He said, 15 years ago, I was coming home from a long day. I was a master plumber, had my own business, very successful. My wife was a Sunday school teacher. We were at church Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night. We were those people. We had a 15-year-old daughter. And I walked in the house one evening after a long day of work, and she was on the floor dead. She had been shot. I thought I knew who did it. So I grabbed my gun out of the closet, got in my car. By the time I was driving away, the police showed up. My wife told them where she thought I was headed because I thought I knew who did it. He drove about 3 blocks away to these teenage boys' house, broke the front door in. The police got there in time. He had the gun pointed at one of the boys on the couch. He was diagnosed with schizophrenia 3 weeks later, or however long later. I think so many of us are this close to homelessness and we don't realize it. They didn't have family to come up underneath him or alongside of him to keep him off the street. So what did he do? He medicated his pain with drugs and alcohol, and it was significant. And for over 10 years, bounced around from shelter to institution across the state of Texas. And then he ends up at my Brother's Keeper. And now he's working the line shift at McDonald's as a supervisor. We have people like that in our midst that we may never meet. And we may never know their story. If you go to my homeless shelter right now, 60% of the folks at my shelter have a job. Most of us, when we think of homelessness, it's those lazy, good-for-nothing, drug addicts standing on the street corner. If they would just get a job and get off their lazy bums and stop living off my tax dollars, the world would be a better place. That's not Carl. I can picture 100 people that I've gotten to know over the last 8 years. They're like Carl. I think of the single mom who a child got stripped away because the husband was abusive and CPS got involved, and she lost her home, she lost her car, and now she's been at Family Abuse Center, now she's at Mission Waco, and can't get a job because she can't find her ID and doesn't have a birth certificate. She's got mental health issues. I mean, there's a lot of issues going on. So what we try to do at Mission Waco is get a foundation, and then just block after block after block, God gets to put together, back together their life. But the challenge we face, though, after time, is that they would do all of those block building, but then when it came to go try to find a place out on their own, it just didn't exist. And if they did find a place, they lived on the surface, which meant anything that went wrong was a domino effect. So their car, like my car last weekend, blew a radiator. Guess what? I make enough money, I can go get it fixed. I've got in-laws here. I got to borrow my mother-in-law's hybrid Toyota Highlander for 3 days. That's unique. But when you're living on the surface and something like that happens, it spirals your life, and it's hard to get out of that spiral. Okay, that was free. You're welcome. Community kitchen. A large part of what we're supposed to, we envision doing is not just having a space for people to cook and eat while they're there, but for folks like you to come out and cook with them and to eat with them. How awesome would it be to have a once a month Crestview Taco Tuesday morning, or one day instead of having the men's breakfast in the gym, you have the men's breakfast out at Creekside and you cook tacos and you invite the men who are staying there for a little prayer and Bible study. That's relationship. That's what Community Kitchen's for. These are our what we call a wash house. It's an individual centralized bathrooms because our studios, which are the very, very small units, do not have plumbing. And you may say, what in the world? You don't have plumbing? There's a few reasons for that. It's hard enough for me to keep my own bathroom cleaned, right? Imagine you haven't had a bathroom in 2 decades. It's somewhat of a public health crisis. So, and also, not only is it just more expensive to put plumbing in every home, but then also maintaining plumbing in every home is also very expensive. Also, when you have a centralized bathroom that's individually locked from the outside, so it's individual, somebody's got to clean those. And so having dignified income, ways of dignified income, is a significant part of what we hope to see out of Creekside. This is where we're at today. That's your left, our community wash house, and our kitchen on the side there on to the right. This is just a few examples of the other buildings. Our Welcome Home Center, which is a multi-purpose space. There's lots of gardening. I want to stick around, and I think y'all are having dessert. I want to highlight a couple questions that I know you have. And so if you have any of these questions, come talk to me. I will give you my cell phone and my email. Maybe not my cell phone. I'll give you Jordan Hubbard's cell phone. You can call him. But I would love to answer. I'll give you Scott's cell phone. I would love to talk to you about these. These are the number one questions I get. Will this attract more people to homeless and more homeless to Waco? You have to have lived in McLennan County for a year to qualify. Does anyone pay rent? Yes. Number one rule, everyone pays rent. Again, who qualifies? What does security? What's construction look like? Big picture, this is almost a $15 million project, which is not cheap. So I'm going to lock the doors, pass the plate until we finish meeting our budget gap. We've raised about $11 million. God has been extremely, extremely gracious. But we hope to see this funding gap come to a close by December. That's lofty, and only God can do that, so pray with me. We've had incredible support thus far. I would invite you to be a part of that. Crestview Church of Christ is there as a home builder. But Crestview is much more than just an organization that just writes a check, as you well know. We want more than just a check. We want relationship. We want partnership. We want you to build relationships with people who live on site. Jimmy says this all the time. We say we love the poor. Do you know their name? We talk a lot about making poverty history, but do we spend any time making it personal? I invite you to make poverty personal and to learn somebody's name out of Creekside. So I'm going to be sticking around. Let me pray for us, and then I think we're done. Bobby's going to sing a solo for us as we're done. No, maybe a duet with me. How's that sound? Let me pray. God, we love you and we thank you. Thank you for your grace and your mercy that came new with the sun this morning. God, how we did nothing to deserve it, nor anything to receive it, but you gave it to us freely anyways. God, I want to thank you so much for this group of people, not just in this room, but the people that this church represents and that fill its pews on Sunday mornings and during the week and in its gymnasium on Night to Shine. What it means to our community is eternal. The friendships that are in this community, the friendships that are in this neighborhood, the lives that have been changed because of the presence of this body of believers in this place is anything short but fantastic. And so, God, I just thank you for this church's heart and their desire to serve others. God, I pray that you would stir in their heart, move in their heart, to just love everyone around them, the oikos, the center of influence, the circle of influence you have placed them in for such a time as this. God, give them divine appointments to be lights in really dark places. God, I pray that you would go before us as we leave this place, be with us as we go, and be our rear guard as we leave. For it's in your Son's name, the name of Jesus, the name above all names, that we pray. Amen.
Church, let's tell John thank you for bringing that good news of what God is doing in Waco. Let's stand and sing one more song together, and then we'll go fellowship. I am resolved no longer to linger, charmed by the world's delight. Things that are higher, things that are nobler, these have allured my sight. I will hasten to him, hasten so glad and free.
Hasten glad and free,
Jesus, greatest, highest, I will come to thee. I am resolved to follow the Savior, faithful and true each day. Heed what he saith, do what he willeth, he is the living way. I will hasten to him, hasten so glad and free.
hasten glad and free,
Jesus, greatest, highest, I will come to thee. Let's sing it again. I will hasten to him, hasten so glad and free.
hasten glad and free,
Jesus, you are the greatest, greatest, highest, I will come to thee. Amen. Go with God.